Well, there you go. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for our GCC Construction Market Outlook for 2024 webinar. My name is Higgins, and I'll be your host today as we discuss the market trends and our predictions and your opportunities for the construction market in the Middle East. Well, we're glad that you could join with us as we dive into this GCC region's vibrant and evolving construction landscape. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or new to the construction sector, today's webinar will provide an essential insights that promise to enlighten and inspire. Well, in 2023, the GCC construction market saw unprecedented growth with soaring contractor awards and innovative projects reshaping the skyline, laying a foundation for what is to be a very promising year, or was to be a promising year ahead. Today, we'll give you an overview of the 2024 market to date to equip you with the knowledge to navigate and excel in this dynamic market for the rest of the year. Well, today I'm joined by our head of research, Jay Shukla. He's a veteran here at Ventures Onsite. Jay, why don't you say hi just as we get going?
So, hi everybody. How are you? Thanks, Phil.
All right, well, we'll get back to Jay because he's going to help us answer some questions today. So please use your platform to ask any relevant question associated to our presentation or the construction market conditions, and together we'll do our best to answer them. Today, I hope to guide you through a comprehensive analysis of market trends, the activity and the forecast for what the Ventures data is showing us for the future. We'll bring you an in-depth review of each GCC market and help identify the key players that are set to dominate the construction landscape. Well, we've got a lot to cover, so grab a notepad. I don't know who has notepads these days. Grab your iPad or whatever you young guys are using today, and but we will be sharing this presentation with you. So let's get ready to stay ahead of the curve in the GCC construction industry. We want to make the most of our time together and ensure that you leave this webinar informed so that you stay competitive. Well, this webinar is brought to you by Ventures Onsite. And if you're not a subscriber or a user to Ventures Onsite, you are most welcome to investigate that further. You can follow up on some of our links to have one of our team explain more about the Ventures Onsite platform. Now, all the data that we're looking at today is accessible in the Ventures Onsite data. It's just that we have researchers like Jay and the directors here at Ventures Onsite constantly looking at the data to collate information that's a snapshot of where we are in the construction sector. And it's a very dynamic time right now. There are so many projects that are being announced in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia, and some oil and gas and other projects in Oman. It's just a very exciting time for all of us. Okay, so the Ventures Onsite Projects Tracker is an online database that will allow you to access all of the information for projects that are in design or from concept to completion. And we update this to provide all the relevant data that you need to manage your business in association to the construction sector. We have our online platform that you can access from your computer. We also have a mobile phone app that allows you to track projects on the go. You're able to sync this data with your own CRM systems and share contacts amongst your team to help coordinate within your group who is following what project. Our team would be very pleased to discuss this further with you if you're not a subscriber already. So the contractor awards from 2014 to 2013 will give us a little bit of an understanding as to how important 2023 was. Because in 2023, we saw nearly $100 billion worth of projects awarded more than in 2022, which was a little bit slow, albeit, but it's still a dynamic push forward from where we have been in the last few years. Now, 2015 was a spike for the construction industry with a lot of preliminary work going on in Saudi Arabia following the economic downturn of 2010 and 11, terrible years. But last year's activity pushed far and above what we've seen for the region for many, many years. Now, you can see here from this chart that this activity is often stimulated by the oil price, and following a peak in the oil price, generally we see a bump in the project awards. And this is not just all about oil and gas, it also stimulates the construction sector as well. And here you can see the relevance between the oil price and the construction activity. The oil price peaked in 2022, and we saw massive movement in 2023. And this is the case generally for the market here in the Middle East region. The GCC contractor awards by country, that number that we saw for 2023, was represented strongly by UAE and the KSA. So we can see here Saudi Arabia pushed very far ahead with all of the giga projects and the preliminary infrastructure works that were going on in the marketplace in 2023. Qatar, we saw, some healthy market with oil and gas pushing the value of project awards up. Oman, we saw a lot of activity in the later part of the year with the first award for some of the large hydrogen projects that were supported there. Kuwait and Bahrain just continue on at their normal pace. And so the GCC contractor awards by industry, if we take that number in 2023 and break it down by each industry sector, and these are the industry sectors that we specifically report in the Ventures Onsite platform. Oil and gas, very strong awards, and that was similar to the building sector. So we saw just as much award value to the oil and gas sector as the building sector. Industrial and water and power and infrastructure all pushing ahead amazingly. Now, some of the major projects that we expect to be awarded to contractors this year, this is, the information that I know you're all anxious to see and looking at. What are the major project activities that we are seeing? Now, these are just some of the projects that we're seeing that we believe will be awarded this year. The Hal and Sour gas development, utilities and process. This is a major project here in the UAE. Green hydrogen project in Oman by Hydrom. Some strong activity that's being announced there. We've seen already this year. Ruya development in Qatar for the North Oil Company. Projects that were awarded there with China Offshore Oil Engineering. The gas-fired independent power plant, the ACWA Power Project, another major project, $4 billion project. The wind resort in Marjan, awarded this year, and that project is moving ahead quickly, 24/7. They are pouring concrete, guys. That is coming out of the ground, and it's amazing to see the work that's going on there at the wind resort. It's fantastic. The Amiral Petrochemical plant in Saudi Arabia, another $3 billion investment that's moving ahead. The Murfa seawater treatment plant in the United Arab Emirates, $2.5 billion project. The NEOM Business City Tabuk project, a $2 billion portion of the NEOM project in Saudi Arabia with the Public Investment Fund, has been awarded. And the Gideon City in Riyadh Resort Core Speed Park was awarded to El Safe Engineering, a $1.9 billion project. Another project here is the Amala in Tobruk Triple Bay Yacht Club. This is managed by Red Sea, and this project has been awarded to the Saudi Arabian Batur Group at a $1.6 billion investment there. Lots of activity happening in Red Sea. It's fantastic to see some of those projects that are now being opened, and they are as beautiful as the photos look. I was able to interview a representative there from Red Sea some time ago, and having a look at some of the landscaping work that has been developed there is just Absolutely amazing. Another project here, the Burj Azizi along Sheikh Zayed Road development with Azizi Developments, a major project has been awarded to Gardenia Contracting, $1.5 billion development there. The Al Habtoor City, Habtoor Tower, another project in the UAE, has now been awarded to China Railway 18th Bureau Group with Habtoor Group. And so we're seeing a tremendous amount of project activity already this year, and we have still so much to come. As you will see shortly, there's a lot of project activity that's yet to be announced and awarded this year, and we'll sort of dive into that a little bit further as we move ahead. Now, it's one thing to have a look at 2023 project awards, but it's also relevant to have a look to see what was the construction spend. So the Ventures Onsite data will report when a project is awarded. And so if a $2 billion project is awarded in 2023, in December of 2023, there's not very much of that $2 billion going to be spent in 23. It's going to be spent in 2024. And this is very relevant for us to understand where the projects are based or focused today. And so the construction spend in 2023 was $161 billion, and we expect in 2024 the construction spend to be $180 billion. And so we're seeing constant increase. Although we saw a massive amount of awards in 23 and strong awards in 24, the construction spend does give us an indication as to the work that's being that is progressing against those projects. And this analysis is made with algorithms based on the project timeline and the type of project that is being developed. So some of the top GCC clients who did award projects in 2023, some of these clients are those that you should be targeting: the Saudi Aramco, ADNOC here in the UAE, Hydrom for their projects in Oman, Public Investment Fund, very strong in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Power Procurement Company, Oil and Gas Company, the Red Sea Global, and Qatar Energy in Qatar, and Qiddiya Investment Company moving ahead. And in the UAE, Aldar Properties have awarded a lot of projects in 23 and continue to do so in 24. They're a bit quiet and covered up by some of these towers that we're starting to see come back to the region, the residential towers that are being built. But Aldar Properties has been very active in the marketplace. So some of the top clients who did announce building projects in 23 that are to be awarded in 24 or in the future, those players were Public Investment Fund, Talal Mustafa, Shah Airport Development, Aldar Properties, National Housing Company, Qiddiya, Damac, Adara, Ema Properties, and Arada. These are the top ranking developers or clients that did announce projects. So these projects may still be in design stage at this point, and they are moving ahead today. Some of the top contractors who have won building projects in 23, we have Trojan General Contracting, Alec Engineering, Al Kifa Contracting, the Saudi Arabian Batur, Matak General Trading or General Contracting, China State Construction Engineering, Ubicon Trading and Contracting, Gardenia Contracting, China Railway, Al Fuzan Trading and General Contracting in KSA, and iBuild Construction in the UAE, and Batea General Contracting here in the UAE for one of those big projects. So we're seeing a lot of activity. These are the major contractors who ranked highly in project awards in 2023. Some of the contractor awards by country in the 2024 outlook. This is where we see the total awards being allocated for each region for 23. So you can see here Saudi Arabia, KSA, pushing up there at $100 billion, and in the UAE, $52 billion, which is still an extremely healthy number. In Qatar, $20 million, supported by a lot of the infrastructure projects that are moving there, and Oman, Kuwait, and Bahrain are pushing ahead strong. So the year is looking healthy. How does this sort of rate with regard to the position today? What projects have been awarded and what do we expect to move ahead? Now, the numbers that we're looking at today were accumulated or prepared at mid-May, so this month. And so we're not halfway through the year yet. And so anything a little bit, less than 50% is about on pace with what we're reading or expecting for the rest of the year. Now, these numbers for what we're predicting for the year are based on the information that we've received firsthand from the clients or the architect as to their proposed award of the project. And so in the UAE, of that 59 billion, we have seen a little bit less than 50% of the awards to date. And so we're on track there, healthy. In Saudi Arabia, there's actually more awards than the pace so far, with 61 billion already awarded and just less than 40 to be awarded. Qatar is behind. We haven't seen a lot of the awards, but just recently there's been some major awards in Qatar, and so we will see some of that activity towards the end of the year. Oman is on pace with the forecast. Kuwait and Bahrain similarly. And so we're seeing the activity in line with the market on a correct pace to accomplish the prediction of the amount of contractor awards that we are expecting throughout the year. So the GCC contractor awards by industry, this is just having a look at the type of project awards. Oil and gas, very strong. Industrial, a little bit down. And building construction high. This is supported by some of that activity in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, water and power and oil and gas. So we're seeing the balance still maintained, the oil and gas sector continuing to invest heavily in the oil and gas sector, and this is flowing on to some really healthy construction market activity. So the contractor awards, breaking it down, you can see where for the oil and gas, we're ahead of pace for that prediction. And the building sector, we're midway, so that's about where we should be. And we'll be tracking these on a regular basis. And hoping in our next webinar later in the year, we'll see some very promising numbers according to these predictions. So some of the major projects in the region that are expected to be awarded this year, these are some of the projects that have recently that have been announced. Quite often these projects are announced with a lot of work that's already done. Just recently, we heard the announcement for the expansion of the Al Maktoum Airport, and there's a lot of work already done for that project. And so our information is saying that this is expected to be awarded later in the year. In NEOM, the business city in Tabuk, Saudi Arabia, with NEOM Company, an $8 billion development, which is the housing accommodation in Wave 2, major part of the activity there. The Dubai Metro Blue Line, a lot of work has already been done, and this will be awarded this year. It's a massive investment here in Dubai with a $4.9 billion project award. The Northfield Production Sustainability Project, compression facilities in Qatar, another major investment. Qatar has spent so much money in the oil and gas sector. It's amazing to see some of this activity that's moving ahead. In the the business city in Tabuk in Oxagon, the Port Terminal 1 buildings, this is to be expected to be awarded this year. The facility EIWPP in Qatar. Remember I mentioned there were some big projects that are moving in the infrastructure sector, and this is one of them in Qatar, $3 million award that's expected this year. In closer to home in the UAE, we're seeing the Masar in Sharjah, the Saro the development by Arada Developments. This will be awarded this year. And the Bulhani expansion package in Qatar, another oil and gas project in Qatar with that is expected to be awarded this year. In Saudi Arabia, the new Marba project in Riyadh, the Mokba skyscraper. This project is expected to be awarded later this year. Very exciting development to be following that project. And in Abu Dhabi, the island's reverse osmosis independent water project on Saadiyat Island, big project, a $2 billion reverse osmosis seawater project there with Emirates Water and Electricity is expected to be awarded this year. So the GCC pre-execution stage projects value, opportunities for the future. So you can see that there is a tremendous amount of activity. This is a snapshot of the projects that are in the pipeline beyond being awarded this year. These are the projects that are in design, that are moving ahead. We're comfortable that our system is accurately reporting them. Some projects get put on hold, but others get pushed very quickly forward. And so there's a tremendous pipeline of project activity that is moving ahead in this region. So major projects that have already been announced this year. These are projects that are announced that may well not be awarded this year. They've been announced, they're in design, they're expected to move ahead. The North Field expansion project in Qatar, $17 billion project, tremendous activity. The Grand Club Resort by Emaar in Dubai, very beautiful project that Emaar has there with a tremendous value of nearly $15 billion investment. This is a major development in the UAE that Emaar will be pushing forward with. I'm sure it will be packaged over time, but we will see that activity in the next few years. The Country Heights Country Club, another project that was announced at the same time. Nearly $25 billion worth of projects that Emaar are moving ahead with. This is another major development in the UAE. The Arabian Hills estate in Abu Dhabi, the Ara real estate development. This is an impressive development. I mean, this is an image that I pulled from the internet, but it looks fantastic. But it's a $6 billion development. In Oman, the green hydrogen project in Doha with Hydrome has been announced but not awarded. And so this is another hydrogen project that will be moving ahead in Oman. Significant investment to the hydrogen sector supported by the Oman activity. In Sharjah, we have a new development, the Mardab suburb development in Sharjah, with the Sharjah government, a $5 billion development for Sharjah. We have a huge development, an industrial development in Ras Al Khaimah with the Gigafactory in Ras Al Khaimah with State Volt. This is a project that will be developing or manufacturing batteries here in the UAE, capturing a growing and demanding market. The Omani mountain destination on Jabal in Al Qada in Oman, big development there in Oman that's moving ahead or been announced. The Jewelry project, another $1 billion project in Saudi Arabia with Arabian Centres Company Limited and KN Real Estate Group. And another project is the Yas Canal residential development in Abu Dhabi with the Abu Dhabi Housing Authority, a $953 million project that has been announced and is moving ahead. Some of the major developments that we've seen in the water and power, or the power and water sector, the Abu Dhabi Energy Company, Vision International Investment Company, and the Gulf Investment Corporation have been announced as the winning consortium for the $408 million Jurana Independent Strategic Water Reservoir Project in Saudi Arabia. In Kuwait, qualification process started for the tender and development of the Al Dibada Power and the Al Shagaya Renewable Energy Phase 3 Zone 1 solar photovoltaic project with a net capacity of 1.1 megawatts. In the UAE, the EWEC issued RFPs for the development of a 1.5 megawatt photovoltaic solar project, as well as announced the award of a 1.5 gigawatt hour Ajban solar power project. This award was to the Korean Western Power Company and Masdar. Oman's Hydrome has announced signing new green hydrogen projects in Doha worth $11 billion as part of its second round of green hydrogen tender process, bringing the total hydrogen production in Oman to 1.3 million tonnes per year by 2030. The Masdar partnered with Bahrain's Bapco Energies to explore the development of wind energy projects in Bahrain with the potential of 2 gigawatts capacity. Major development there, be interesting to see. In Oman, Nama Power and Water issued RFQs to investors for the development of the Ibri 3 IPP solar power project with a capacity of 500 megawatts. And Korean Western Power signed a joint development agreement with the EDF Renewables for a potential development of a greenfield Kanza 1.5 gigawatt solar power project in the UAE. Now, some of the developments that we've seen, some headlines for the oil and gas sector in the UAE. Saudi Aramco awarded contracts worth $1.3 billion to Technicas Suandas and Sinopec to build a new natural gas liquids facility in the kingdom. CB&I was awarded a significant EPC contract by Masa Liquefied Natural Gas for a full containment concrete liquefied natural gas storage tank in Oman. French Technip Energies was awarded an EPC contract for a 1 million metric tonnes per annum Masa ING debunkering project in Soha, Oman. And in Qatar, McDermott secured an awarded 2 EPCI contracts for packages 11 and 13 at the Ruya development project. McDermott very strong in the Qatar market activity. Aramco selected the EPC contractors for work on 17 packages of the Phase 3 of the Master Gas Systems Network in the Kingdom at an investment of $10 billion. And Aramco also awarded the EPC contracts worth $1.7 billion for a major expansion of its Fadili gas plant to Samsung Engineering Company, GS Engineering and Construction Corporation, and NESMA and partners. And Technip Energies with IGC and NPCC received a limited notice to proceed with the UAE's ADNOC to commence early EPC activities at the Ruwais low-carbon LNG project with a total LNG production capacity of 9.6 million metric tonnes per annum. In the industrial sector, the state-of-the-art lithium processing plant in Kazad, Abu Dhabi, with an investment of $1.3 billion. Novel Foods Group, the GLAT Group, Bioengineering AG, and BC Consultancy AG announced a $500 million biotech production site located in the UAE. The polysilicon production facility at Soha Free Zone, with an investment of $1.35 billion by United Solar Polysilicon Company. State Vault in Russell Campbell, we looked at that project before, announced their plans to build a battery cell gigafactory with a capital outlay of $3.2 billion. The Turkish steelmaker Tosyala Holding will reportedly invest $5 billion in a new steel plant in Saudi Arabia. And some of the opportunities for KSA, these are some of the major projects that we are seeing in Saudi Arabia. I'm sure you have them listed high on your agenda. Neom, Qiddiya, the Red Sea project, Al Lula development, Amala, Jeddah Central, still a lot of work to be done there, the Diriyah projects, and the new Muraba project in Riyadh. Now, these are the major projects that are driving a lot of the activity in Saudi Arabia. What's of interest here is that the amount of the award today in comparison to the total project And so in NEOM, as an example, we've seen 37 billion award of an expected 500 billion. So there's a long way to go there. And there is some discussion that we will have on that later. Project award for Gidea is 8 million. We've seen 6 million award, and so the awards are moving forward. We have only seen 6 billion of 16 billion planned for the Red Sea development. In Alula, we've only seen 3 billion award of a $15 billion development price tag. And in Amala, we haven't even yet seen 5 million awards from an 11 million project outlay. And Jeddah Central, we heard a lot about the demolishing of the city and the industrial sectors to make way. We've heard a lot of tremendous report about Jeddah Central, and yet the awards to date only 1.3. So that's all infrastructure. The construction awards have yet to move forward for Jeddah Central, and only 5 billion or nearly $6 billion of a $63 billion price tag for the Diriyah project activity, and New Maraba has just begun. So there's tremendous amount of project activity still yet to come in Saudi Arabia. And what's exciting to see is that the activity in Saudi Arabia is strengthening everything else that's happening throughout the GCC region. So some project owners that you should be targeting. I'm not going to read all of these. So like I said, we will share this presentation with you. There's a lot of information here for you to digest, but we'll share this with you. But Saudi Aramco Public Investment Fund, these are the top players in Saudi Arabia. Roshan is a name that pops up. We haven't seen them there in some of the major projects, but they have recently announced some very progressive residential developments in Saudi Arabia. In Oman, of course, very typical to Oman, a lot of the project activity is government or ministry-led, and a lot of the projects that we're seeing there are of that nature. Very strong activity in some of their industrial estates, and of course their hydrogen and oil and gas activity. In the UAE, the ADNOC is there at the top, but TAQA is there with energy projects. But we've got some new names that are popping up here with some major investments. Azizi Developments with their mega tower, the Roads and Transport Authority moving ahead with some infrastructure works. Aldar, Q Properties, Imarada, Nakheel, Danube, a growing developer, has pushed onto that list, and fantastic to see. And Damak Properties, who still continue to develop. In Bahrain, again, similar to Oman, a lot of the activity is ministerially led. In Qatar, very, very strong activity in the oil and gas sector, but Ariane Real Estate and Bawar Real Estate, they continue to develop in Qatar, and there is project activity moving ahead there. I'm not sure if that activity is enough to be for the infrastructure of the construction industry that was there during the games, but the football, but at least there is some activity. And in Kuwait, we are seeing oil and gas development, ministerial public works activity moving ahead. But nothing screaming at us to make some move. But there is some activity that continues to stimulate the Kuwait market. So as we close, some of the market drivers that we see continually affecting or supporting the market: economic and population growth, fueling social infrastructure, especially in Saudi Arabia. They're building in Saudi Arabia for tourism, but they're also building because they have a healthy population that is continuing to grow. Water and power and utilities projects continue to move forward. Long-term government visions like Saudi 2030 and D23 and Plan Abu Dhabi 2030. These are not just documents that are written. I'm quite inspired by the amount of reports that we're seeing about companies being in line with Saudi Vision 2030. It's important that the associations and the organizations within Saudi, they all seem to be, strong behind the vision to see it move ahead. And it is something that is monitor. There's some tremendous reports about that. KSA Giga Projects and the Mega Projects program continue. And as we've seen, there's still a lot of work yet to be awarded, an increased appetite for real estate spending. I would definitely say this is the case in the UAE. There's a lot of investment money pushing into the UAE from the European channels where these projects are being built, and many of these projects are being sold off plan, similar to what we were seeing back in 2018, where we were seeing a lot of activity in the construction sector, and this was being supported by investors who are looking to enter the marketplace. The oil and gas major players focus on diversifications to sustainability and capacity expansion, very prominent. The Saudi new rail projects program in the planned new rail projects in Bahrain, Oman, and Kuwait, helping to push the activity forward. A rise in renewables programs throughout the whole GCC region. Massive investments planned for developing hydrogen and ammonia projects in the UAE and especially in Oman. Increased focus on industrial and manufacturing projects, and major events like Riyadh Expo 2030, FIFA 2034, Qatar 30, Asia Games, the KSA Trojena 2029 Asia Winter Games. Now, we haven't seen a lot of very specific project announcements or awards for this activity. And I bring your mind back to the last 5 years in Qatar as they readied for the FIFA football the other year. A lot of activity was stimulated just by one event. And here we have multiple events heading to Saudi Arabia in the years to come. So we will continue to see the push forward in a very positive manner in that marketplace. Well, that's our presentation today. I hope you got a lot of information from that. All right. So if you do have any questions, then please share them in the Q&A button there on the screen. We've got some very good questions. Well, I'm gonna go to Mohammed has asked a question here. Very quick question. It says, is there a slowdown in the projects in Saudi Arabia? Well, you just saw the presentation. And while you may see that there are some slowdown on some of the projects that you're following, like the Giga projects, I mean, it takes time to develop these projects. And I think this year we've seen a tremendous amount of award associated to those mega projects. And that's only going to continue. You saw the numbers. And so project awards for the rest of this year will be prominent. And I think we'll start to see some activity. Now, we are reporting on the major projects, but there are a tremendous amount of smaller projects that don't even reach the top, 10 or 20 projects or developers that we're reporting on. And so with the Ventures Onsite platform, you can drill down to, smaller project activities in certain regions, or you can have a look at the construction activity that an architect is working on for one particular project, but you can also use our data to understand all of the other projects that consulting company is involved with. And so when you start looking at that information, you see that there is tremendous activity. Jay, there's a question here from the presentation that 2024 looks to be a slower year than 2023. I mean, when you look at the awards, 2023 was high. What do you have to comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, let's say, yes, in terms of contract awards, if you look at 2024, will be comparatively slower if we are comparing that to contract awards which happened in 2023. But there is no need for concern, in our opinion, and we won't call it a slowdown actually, since the projected award value, if you compare the last 10 years, it's very much higher compared to the last 10 years. So if you look at the average contract award happening in the last 10 years, it's around $155 billion, and what we're expecting or projecting for 2024 is around $194 billion. So in terms of activity and spending, 2024 will be a very active year for GCC, since the construction is progressing on projects which are awarded this year and as well as from last year.
I mean, there's another question here, Jay, with regard to some of the reports that we heard recently about the NEOM project in Saudi Arabia being downscaled. I mean, that could probably be sort of some background to asking of that question. What's your take on that?
And there are announcements and some news revolving around the scaling down of the line. But, we're still waiting for some additional clarifications on that and some official announcements. On the whole, there is no official announcement of NEOM project being scaled down. And with the amount of new projects being announced regularly with NEOM, we see no signs to stop it today.
I mean, so that announcement was relevant to downsizing of the line, and I mean the scope of that project is still enormous, but it's only a small portion of NEOM. NEOM isn't the line. The line is just part of the massive NEOM development, and I think that needs to be clarified. I think maybe we should just do a whole webinar on NEOM. If you would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a question here: which sectors in the GCC construction industry are expected to see the most significant growth in 24? Well, I mean, the numbers sort of identified that to us. Oil and gas continues to move ahead, but the construction sector's moving ahead strong as well. And I mean, that's going to be the activity for the next couple of years. Are you seeing anything different than that from your research, Jay?
I mean, oil and gas will definitely be one of the driving factors. But if you look at construction industry specifically, we're looking at residential and non-residential buildings, transportation infrastructure, green buildings initiatives, which are expected to see substantial growth. And then increased focus on tourism and commercial sectors are also driving significant developments.
Okay, very good. I keep referring to you as the researcher. You're not really the researcher. You head the research team. We're doing pretty well for time, and we will finish on the hour. There's a few more questions that I want to get to, but why don't you take a moment to talk to us a little bit about the Ventures Onsite research? I mean, when we say Ventures Onsite research, what does that really mean? I mean, is it a computer system? Do we have people? How do we go about getting this information? Everyone would probably want to know the answer to this question.
An interesting question, actually. Though we would like to keep the trade secret, how we do research, but I can give you an overview on how we work on research. So we are, of course, we do primary and secondary methods of research, and of course we adopt boots on ground method as well. Wherein primary research, wherein we get in touch with contractors, consultants, and other stakeholders directly and get first-hand information out from them. And then, of course, we rely on some secondary methods like, tender boards, published news, and other sources wherein, it can help us get some updates on certain projects which we may have missed and stuff like that. And we also have a ground team who continuously travels around different parts of the countries, let's say UAE, for example, or our team just came back from Oman and Kuwait, for example. So we do have a ground team who goes around, takes pictures, site pictures, and that's how also we get our information from the market. So we deploy various methods, and of course we do use technology to identify information from various sources. We have hundreds of resources available online. And of course, we stay ahead. We are staying up with the time as well, trying to adopt AI as much as possible wherever, we can implement those kind of things. So, it's a it's like a Swiss knife approach. We have a multi-dimensional source of collecting information.
Very good. So I know we have a very big team of people that are working in this area. It's not just something that happens easily. It's constantly aided. A lot of phone calls and a lot of personal connection with the consultant or the client to get that information. And so thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. You mentioned there about technology, but construction technology is an interesting consideration today. How do you think construction technology is impacting the construction market?
Uh, I think the adoption of technology in the construction market is definitely increasing. And the technologies like the BIM, drones, 3D printing, and of course AI is enhancing the efficiency, safety, and quality of the overall construction projects and significantly reducing cost and of course the construction duration.
When we talk about construction technology, I mean, yes, we see the technologies that are being birthed for the construction process, but in our industry, in our field, where we're maybe in business development or sales, construction technology is relevant to how we sell. And having information like Ventures Onsite is part of that technology or the technological development. I'm an old guy. I worked with a company years ago in Australia, and they provided information like Ventures Onsite do, but it was in a piece of paper. It was a booklet that was delivered. We didn't have computers back in those days, Jake. And we used to rip out the piece of paper and put it in a file and put it in the filing cabinet. My gosh, we don't even have filing cabinets, but the first time that I worked with Ventures Onsite, I was in Australia managing a sales team here in the UAE, and the CD. Remember we used to do all the information on here, Excel file. That would get sent all the way to Australia, and I'd break it down and share the information with my sales team. I mean, we've come a long way by having an online platform, and the platform that we have at Ventures is truly state of the art. Being able to search and collate your information to easily have that information accessible is wonderful. And so appreciate all your efforts there. But that's technology for me. I'm not sure about others that are on our webinar, but that's a development, and that's wonderful. And so what are some of the sustainable trends in the GCC that we're seeing for 24? You got any comments on this? I have, Jay, but what are you seeing as some of the sustainability trends that we're seeing in the UAE?
So the trend, I think there is some increased use of renewable materials, energy efficient buildings, designs, sustainable urban development projects, which are aligned with the nation visions like, the Saudi 2030 and D33 and other visions basically of each country.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I think so. I would agree with that. We're seeing a shift in, tremendous amount of solar power projects that are being developed in the region, and with hydrogen pushing ahead in the sector. I think we're seeing a lot more consideration for sustainability in the way that we build, even in the way that we manage our green space. It's tremendous to see some of that activity. So it's fantastic. But I'm looking at some of the questions, and from our viewers, there seems to be a lot of concern with regard to the slower pace of the project awards that they are seeing in Saudi Arabia. And I think that is just a matter of time. I think the projects are there. It does take a little bit longer in Saudi Arabia to, go to market, to award the tender. But we're seeing a tremendous amount of these tenders being awarded today. And so that's wonderful. Any comments on the oil price fluctuation, Jay? We've had a fairly stable oil price, but what do you think would happen if the oil price did fall? Would this stifle some of the activity in Saudi Arabia? Is that a concern?
Definitely. I mean, oil prices, the oil revenues significantly influence government spending capabilities. So higher the oil price typically results in higher public sector spending on infrastructure and other projects. While, of course, low prices can lead to budget cuts and delayed downscale projects at the same time. So definitely oil prices and revenues are definitely influential.
Yeah, and it's always been the case that oil price has stimulated the activity. Fortunately, we've seen a very stable oil price, but some of the commitments that we have in Saudi Arabia today for the development, will continue to drive that activity moving ahead. Maybe there would be less investment in the oil and gas sector, but I think as far as the construction activity moving ahead in Saudi Arabia, it's not that much tied today to the oil price like we have seen in the past. That's a different thing. It's similarly in the UAE, we have a lot of construction activity that's been awarded and moving ahead, especially in the residential sector. And it's not stimulated by the oil price, but it is stimulated by investment coming to the marketplace to invest in the region. So we continue to see some really healthy and strong activity. Well, we're sort of reaching the end of our time. We don't want to go over time today. We really do appreciate you staying with us, joining us for our webinar. We will be sharing this presentation with you, and any questions that we haven't had a chance to reach, we'll drop you a line to say hi. Thank you for reaching out with some of the questions. I'm just reviewing the questions list here. There's one question with regard to the data. Do we cover all of the construction activity in the region? I don't think the answer is that is yes. We cover all of the projects that we know of, which is most. We do have a cutoff. We don't cover small projects. What's some of the criteria for the projects that we follow in Ventures, Jay?
So we try to cover as many projects as we can, but definitely all the projects above a certain value is definitely covered on our platform. Like $5 million and above is definitely covered. And we also make our efforts, we put in our efforts to also cover projects between $1 to $5 million as well.
Okay. So I think we did. I think that answers your question, Prakesh. We cover what we can. We don't cover everything. We have a limitation, but there is a tremendous amount of projects in the database. I like to track the projects that are in design in the Ventures Onsite database. I mean, during COVID, we saw projects in design stay stable, and then we started to see it fall. But if you have a look at the projects that are being designed for the region today, that number continues to increase. And so that's always a healthy sign for me. I've always worked in the industry getting products specified. And so it's very important to be following the consultant to do that and to know that these projects are in design. And we're seeing less projects, getting to the design stage and then being put on hold, unlike what we saw many years ago. Projects that are there, there's strong confidence that they continue to move forward. If you speak to any architect today, they will tell you they are busy. They are so busy. Companies that have even set up their operations in Saudi Arabia, they're busy. They just don't have time to be spending. They're following so many projects that it's just tremendous activity. Well, Jay, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope we can have you back again to answer some questions
today.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you for your fantastic presentation.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining our webinar. We hope that this has been informative for you. We will, like I said, we will share the presentation with you, and we look forward to staying connected to you. And we hope that this information helps you be successful. Please keep following Ventures Onsite. Follow our news updates every week. Follow our YouTube channel. You'll see them. We're doing our best to keep you abreast of the market activity in short bursts of concise, consolidated information. So as we say, so that you stay informed and you will stay competitive. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Take care.